Welcome to Heart and Mind Talks, a podcast for female entrepreneurs navigating life and business. I'm Vanessa Ortali, award-winning speaker and coach. Join me and expert guests as we uncover how to make success simpler, more fun, and feel truly aligned to you. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with someone who could use a little extra love and inspiration. Let's go. Hello, friend. I am so excited to introduce you to my soul sister, Leyla. And we originally met in Toronto, but our relationship has now gone international. She moved to Portugal during COVID, and now every time I go to Europe, I get to see her. I miss her so much, but with the beauty of technology, I am so excited to give you this conversation today. Leyla's story is so beautiful. She was a YouTuber, she had a successful business in the hair industry, and now has reinvented herself and started Being LUCA. She has created the Align Journal. And in this conversation today, we talk all about how to upgrade our energy, tune into our consciousness, and really start essentially transforming into the person that you want to become, because all of this is possible. You are not a victim to the labels and the person that you think you are, your past traumas. You get to recreate the person that you are every single day. And Leyla's going to show you how she recreated herself. I know so much of this is going to resonate with you. Hello, Leyla. How are you? I'm so happy to chat with you today.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to connect. We always have so much fun. It's like BFFs catching up.
Right. I know we've met up in Portugal and in Toronto. So yeah, you're in Portugal now though, and I miss you when you're away, but I'm so excited for people to kind of get like to be a fly on the wall and listen to our conversations, because one thing I love you so much for is our conversations are always so fulfilling to my heart, but also my mind. I just love the way that we chat and the way that we challenge each other and go deeper. So I'm excited to have our record button on this conversation today. But firstly, one thing that I also admire of you so much is your journey. Can you kind of let people in a little bit more on your entrepreneurial journey? Because you went from basically hair to spirituality and now launching your journal. So can you give us a little bit more information about what that evolution looked like for you?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I haven't up to now identified as an entrepreneur, even though I was very blessed to be sort of thrown into this incredible gift. It's like a grace from the universe, of the opportunity to be part of a business that just kind of took off. And I attribute everything to energy, even when I didn't consciously know it. Now, looking back, I can see how that's what actually made it happen and manifested it into reality. So that was back in 2008, I think, right when, the collapse of the economy happened and all that. And I won't go too much into the actual business, but it was in the beauty industry. And my sister and her husband at the time we were all kind of soul searching and trying to find our next thing. And, they were getting married, and Alex, her ex-husband, is a very like entrepreneurial visionary. So he saw an opportunity in us having a chat about hair extensions. And then that's kind of how it all started. And it was at the beginning of the YouTube, just kind of starting out with the video tutorials and all that, the beauty tutorials. So we were just at the right time, at the right place, so to speak, on the surface. But I know that it had to do with like that belief. We all had this belief and this drive, and like there's something more. And I specifically remember, after being let go of from my job at the time that I couldn't really stand, and I was like actually wanting to leave because I was thinking that I'll go into home staging because I had an interior design diploma. And I remember just like surrendering to the universe. At the time, I think I was watching Oprah or something, soul, what is her thing? Sunday Souls, whatever that
Yeah, like
means.
soul talk or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Super
in one
soul.
of them, yeah, Super Soul, that's it. And it was like, I can't remember exactly what the conversation was, but it was like that thing of like, I just know that something is coming, like this, like surrender to like, I'm ready for it, like bring it on kind of energy. And that's kind of how it started. And then, it took off
So
and
I
we
want
were,
to come back to this feeling. So when Alex came to you with this opportunity, I know you felt that surrender. Tell me a little bit more about that feeling. Like, what did you feel like? Did you feel a heck yes? You know, when people say, if it's not a heck,
yeah.
the heck no. Like, did you feel, how did you know it was an opportunity that you wanted to move forward with?
For me, it has to do with exactly what you're saying. It's like a full body yes, and it's an excitement. If something feels exciting, that is actually the energy of excitement and joy is the closest that we are to our true self. That is who we are. Our natural state is joy. So when we feel like a passion, like something lighting up, there's a spark in something. That's how you know that it's your soul guiding you. It's like your North Star. So again, it wasn't conscious at the time, but now like dissecting it with everything that I know, I can see that that's what was actually happening energetically. So yeah, so that was the feeling was like this excitement, this like, oh, this is fun. Let's see what this will bring. And that, again, like I said, was an incredible opportunity. And then they wanted to take the business in a different direction. And I was kind of on my own journey at the time. I was single. I wanted to explore opportunities. So I moved to LA and all these things. So I exited the business. And ever since then, that was in 2012, I think. I've just been in this really deep journey of transformation, essentially. That, like, if we're going to put it under one umbrella term, that's what it is. And collectively, we've been going through it. But for me personally, it's been just a really intense, what people call dark night of the soul, like just the darkest, deepest parts of myself I had to confront and face and integrate because for my whole life, I feel like, again, it wasn't conscious, but there was some soul knowing that something within me knew that I'm here for something very specific, like a soul mission. I'm here on a mission. And basically, I just turned 40 this year. So the entire journey was about discovering finally, like with clarity, what that soul mission is. So now, about a month and a half ago, I finally gave myself permission to accept what I've known for a long time, like in the background, but now I can own it because I cleared out and completely alchemized all the subconscious programming, uh, all the identities that were out of alignment that I had no idea were. I mean, I knew there was something there, but I didn't know how deep it was, and I didn't know really how to do it. So it was this journey of, we always talk about the breadcrumbs, right? Like one thing leading to another. And eventually now being on the other side of it. And of course, the transformation never ends, right? But I feel like we get to certain like level up levels where you're like, okay, now I'm stable. Now I can like expand more consciously, right? So that phase of the last decade, becoming a parent, set me off on that journey of like, you really have to face every single shadow you have because life in general is a mirror. But when you have children, you can't get away from that mirror. They are going to continuously show you where you're not free, where you're holding yourself back, where you're trying to control, and all of these, things that are hiding in our subconscious.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was a really deep journey of transformation, and now I can, with um, conviction and confidence, own my purpose and my mission. And now I'm in a phase of like, okay, now that we know what it is, what are the steps? How do we actually take those next aligned, inspired actions? Because, we are spirits in form. We do come here to take action, right? It's that divine, feminine, masculine, alpha, omega, like activating those energies within us so that we can allow that beautiful divine flow that wants to be birthed, but with, I always think of this analogy of a river. So if we think of, source energy as this pure flow, pure creation that wants to be birthed, if there is no banks it's a flood, right? So we need the masculine, we need the structures, we need the strategy, we need the logic so that it can kind of go in a certain direction and be more, I don't know, like structure is the word that comes to me, right? So yeah, so that's my internal journey of like activating these energies because naturally I'm more flowy. It's very easy for me to receive. I don't have a problem if someone wants to give me something, it's like, thank you. I know I'm worthy. It took a while to get there, but it was that masculine of like doing that was, I had a limiting belief that like it's hard or like all this resistance and all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, now it's getting to be more fun and exciting to take those steps.
You said so many cool things. I want to go back. So you said that now you're able to own your purpose, your mission. I want you to share two things. I want you to share what you know your purpose and mission to be, and I want you to share how have you owned that?
Yeah, so I'll answer the first in succession. So the first thing is I've always known that I'm here to be some kind of a guide for humanity, right? To assist the ascension of consciousness, but I didn't have clarity around how, what am I actually supposed to do? What does that look like? Because my logical mind, the ego mind, like it wants to know, okay, I know that's what I'm here to do, but how, in what form, right? So when we're in it, in our own journey, we have like these blinders on and it's hard to see. So again, I feel like I've gotten to a certain point now where those blinders are kind of off and I have this bird's eye view of a higher perspective on not only my journey, but humanity as a whole and my place in it. It's like I feel like each of us as a soul that's awakening, coming to our own power, we each have a little piece of the puzzle. And I like to think of it like a thread. And I'm a very visual person. So I see this as like a golden thread that each of us is a channel through, from the cosmos, bringing through our hearts. And together we each add this thread and we weave this new earth reality of the 5D, right? Which is pure love. It's the consciousness of unity, oneness, where it's not a concept, but it's embodied. We're actually having a direct experience of ourselves as pure source energy in form that is here to be a creator, a conscious creator. So we're not creating by default from all the programming and conditioning that we all were born into. But now we are integrating those parts and releasing what needs to be released, coming into wholeness and bringing through whatever that specific purpose is. So now, again, with my clarity that I'm so grateful for, it took 40 years, but it is what it is, it all served the purpose. So I know for me, it is to be the guide to assist humanity to actually transition consciously to the 5D. And the latest piece of it is that I'm still integrating. It's like literally a few days unfolding. So I'm not fully integrated in it yet, but it's essentially this whole understanding and idea of the quantum realm. So living in the quantum, right? We all were born into this linear understanding of reality, and all that is an illusion, right? So playing in the quantum means you are literally playing in the infinite possibilities and everything becomes available, right? So all that you collapse time and space and you're playing in the infinite, which means that all timelines are not only available, but they're right there for your taking if you can claim it, if you believe that you are worthy, if you have a strong sense of your true identity as a creator being, you can claim it with like this power that is not coming from your ego, but it's coming from your soul, knowing who you truly are. So the idea of jumping to parallel realities, right? Because everything exists simultaneously. And if we can get to a point of having clarity around exactly what it is that we want, and it doesn't have to be the specifics, I want this or I want that, but claiming the feeling of how you want to feel, right? in each area of your life. So if you have specifics, great, but it's more about the feeling, it's about the state. What is your definition of your version of heaven on earth? Getting really specific with the feelings of what that feels like in your body. How do you feel within yourself? What is your relationship with other people, with nature, with, your offering to the world, your gift, like in all these different areas? How do you feel day to day? And then going through that journey of cultivating that state within you, because again, it's all energetics, it's all state of being first, because life is a mirror. So if you can do the inner work, then the reality has no choice but to catch up eventually. There is a little bit of a time lag. There is a time piece, right? And that's for a reason. It's for our own protection, right? Because we might think that we're ready for something, but at a soul level, there might still be some things that we are, working out and tweaking, because it's an expansion that we are. You can't just go from like here to there. It's a slow process, again, for our own benefit, because we can't. I think we'll fry our nervous system and brain if we go too high frequency, like from here to there, right? So it's a gradual thing, and for me, it has become my soul, like my humans objective, to like just allow myself to enjoy the process of getting there, as opposed to like in the past I just wanted to like skip all that and be there already. Now I've slowly taught myself, the human, to like, we are here to enjoy the journey of becoming, because it's already done, right? Like that timeline already exists in the quantum field. And all I'm doing as the human is raising my frequency enough so that I can actually perceive it with my physical senses. Because what is that teaching that's out there, right? Like you can't perceive that which you're not the vibration of. Mm-hmm. So even though it exists in the quantum field and it's available to you, if you're not like consistently emitting that frequency, you can't perceive it with your physical senses.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So let's chat a little bit more about living in the quantum, but raising our vibration, because you've mentioned energy throughout this entire chat. I know for me, I can get there when I am full of love and peace and not judgment. Like my inner child and the environment in which I grew up in, judgment was so easy. Judgment of myself and judgment of others. And I can still fall back there. So someone told me something recently: observation without evaluation. And so I'm constantly practicing that. And I know for me, love and peace are like my cornerstones to raise my energy. For you, how do you raise your energy and connect to this quantum field that you're speaking of?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. And exactly that. As a visual person, for me, when I get caught in the mental loops, I can feel my energy is literally up here in my head. So it's bringing the awareness down into my body in the physicality, and simultaneously kind of having that bird's eye view. Like, so I'm having like the human experience of bringing the energy down into my heart, because that to me is the portal that actually allows me to enter into the quantum field, right? The heart chakra, the love frequency. So connecting through the heart in the body, but also simultaneously then shifting my perspective from the human, which is like this tiny little, like if we think of like holding a piece of paper, it has this tiny little hole, pinhole, and you're looking at the world through that tiny little spot, versus you're seeing, because we do have that ability. It's a skill that you hone, kind of zooming out and seeing from the way that your soul, the way that your spirit is experiencing. Because we have our physical mind and we have our higher mind, higher self, people call it whatever, different things, it's all the same, right? That part of you is you, and that part of you has an opinion as well. So it's that process of in the body connecting, bringing the energy down and awareness into the heart, and then connecting and zooming out and viewing your particular situation, circumstance, state of being, whatever it is, shifting perspectives to how your higher mind is viewing it and what is the frequency of that part of you, because we do have the ability to cultivate that state and generate it by like shifting. perspectives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. You also posted a video recently about the understanding and acceptance that your thoughts are not who you are. And when you're really able to detach. And so for me, this is connected because of that perception piece, right? When you're able to view it and not become it, you're able, that detachment is so freeing and healthy to allow you to have a different perspective. Do you
Absolutely.
have anything to add to that concept of
Yes.
detaching from your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. So the way that it's been a journey to get there, but it has to do with the reparenting aspect. Again, the way that I think of it is that I have this mind, right? As a soul, as a spirit, as a, aspect of source energy. I have this mind, and I'm the divine parent. I am the divine mother, father archetype of, and the grandfather and the grandmother. There are different energies, right? Of this inner child. And the mind actually is a system of multiplicity. So there is an actual like internal family, internal community of different parts that play different roles as protectors and all these different things. If people are interested, they can look into IFS, internal family systems. It's a therapeutic model that was very helpful for me in understanding and integrating all these different parts. But so yeah, so it's about becoming the parent to these parts. And the way that I experience my human, the psyche, is that it is literally like a toddler. It is this immature, innocent part. It's not evil or anything. It just doesn't know any better because it has limited senses. Literally cannot perceive beyond the physicality. So as this divine parent, the spirit, the way that I think of it is it's our duty to become that conscious, loving parent. And just as you would parent your toddler human children, you explain things to this part of yourself. So I actually find it extremely helpful to speak out loud, because if it's in my head, it's jumbled, it's incohesive, it's just too much energy. When I actually start first putting my hand, like if I feel like those parts are activated emotionally, and just like this charge, right? So I put my hand on my heart because I can feel like the weight of my hand. And I breathe, right? Like the whole like coming back into the present. And then I actually start speaking to it and addressing whatever it's feeling. And it does immediately calm down, and it will tell you what it needs. And then you were great at that as well. We had many conversations about like that practice. That it truly is essential practice, in my opinion, in raising that human part of yourself. Because what's actually evolving, right? There's the soul journey of evolution, but also the human part of us is also evolving. So it's this beautiful merging into oneness
Yeah.
internally. And when that happens, when that happened for me is when I started to see my external relationships actually reflect a more healthy, more harmonious dynamic, because now I've cultivated that within, and it's always inner first and outer just follows, right? It's a byproduct. So yeah, that's a very important piece in that
Yeah.
journey to coming to wholeness for
Yeah.
me.
For me too. You said it as well. I mean, I once I started doing that, shifting and just paying attention to the inner dialogue and reparenting myself, it changed my inner dialogue, changed my vibration, my inner peace, love. Like it allowed me to tap into so many things. And when I first started, I don't know if this was your experience too, when I first intentionally started reparenting, oh my goodness, I would have to stop like 100 times a day. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it just gets easier. And there are still days where my inner child is so loud. But that reparenting part is such an important skill
Yes,
to be
absolutely.
able to communicate it to yourself in that way. And one
Yeah.
part that I think is so important is that acceptance, is that understanding and not judging the inner child, right? It's that innocence that you're talking about. They don't know any better. They're trying to protect us. They're trying to do what they think is best. And us, we need to, reparent. But I want to connect that to parenting because
Yes.
you have said, and we've talked about this so many times, even outside of this conversation, that parenting has been that transformation for you. Can you talk a little bit more about your parenting journey and how your children have helped you to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, they were basically showing me how much, how many parts of myself were in exile, right? Like, and that I basically did not have a relationship with those
Mm.
parts at all. I wasn't even aware of their existence, let alone being the parent.
Can you
So
give
they were,
me
yeah. So it has to do with the regulation of emotions, right? So because I was raised in a very volatile, emotionally unstable environment, due to like unprocessed childhood traumas, my nervous system went into a chronic stress response. And essentially, for my entire life, I was locked into a freeze or fight response. Like I was actually, my nervous system was in a state of contraction and tension all the time. That was like my normal state, which is, I don't even know how I survived, but I did, right? Like I was literally living in survival. So the entire process of coming home to myself was about learning how to regulate, learning how to increase that capacity of the window of tolerance, to how to be with uncomfortable sensations, and many skills in between, right? Like learning to communicate the what is that model, NVC, nonviolent communication. So it's basically connecting with like, and learning to communicate, and also teaching your children by modeling. The reason that you're upset is because there is a part of you that needs something, right? So it's learning to actually, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? What is it that I need? And then learning to communicate that, not from like, you need to do this, but I really need this right now, right? How would that be for you? And then coming up with, negotiating, because the thing is, you have parts, all these different, with all these different needs, but so do other people that also have their parts, right? So it becomes then this dance of like, okay, well, how do we find a middle ground? And sometimes you might not. Sometimes right now I cannot fulfill that need because we need to do this or this, right? Like as a parent, but you at least validate and acknowledge, and then when you've done, let's say you're going somewhere or school, or whatever the thing is that you just can't fulfill that need that the child has, at least you validate and acknowledge, and then you talk about it later, and you strategize with them at a point where everyone is calm and you can actually access your intelligence, because you're not operating from your amygdala where you literally can't think and everyone's in survival. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, it's about like, it was about learning to self-regulate, because I had none of those skills. So when they would go into whatever states they were going through, because their brain isn't there, I would get activated and I didn't know how to regulate myself. So therefore, I couldn't share my regulated nervous system with them and co-regulate with them. So it would just turn into this whole mess, because they're looking to me as a parent, as an adult, supposedly, but I wasn't, right? Emotionally, psychologically, I wasn't. I had to raise myself so that I could get to that state of actually holding that energy of calm, presence, right? So that was the arc and the journey that was the hardest, because I would fall into those patterns of shame and guilt and judgment and all of that, which is so unhelpful. That's not what I needed at the time. I needed compassion, right? So, but that was the thing. I had to learn that the hard way, and like unconditionally loving myself and all these different parts. That was my soul curriculum. I came to learn unconditional love because I didn't learn it growing up. And it's not to the fault of anyone who raised me. They didn't know. So that was my thing. I had to learn unconditional love. And the thing is, it was so painful when I would watch myself not be able to unconditionally love my kids. How could I? I didn't love myself. So that's what they were reflecting, right? So it was a lot of those layers of like forgiveness and acceptance, and developing those skills, because that's what it is. It's just a skill. You just create these pathways in your brain of being able to access these states of pure love over time.
Yeah.
So that was the journey.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
mentioned two really, I'm sure there are many more, but you've mentioned two pivotal moments in your life. You've mentioned this parenting when your children were reflecting that back at you. And then you also have expressed that knowingness that you were made to be a guide. If anybody's
Mhm.
listening to this and they can relate to both of those things, like this knowingness that they are made for more, that they are made to shine and show up in this world, and or they're a parent and they're in this situation and they know they're meant for more and they know that it can look different. What would you say to them and how would you help them to move into this next expansion?
I would suggest to spend less time on screens and focusing externally and create more space to connect with yourself, whatever that looks like to you, right? We all have our own ways. There are so many different practices and tools. Meditation and journaling and just spending time in nature are like the basic, simplest uh, contemplative practices that I feel like will always serve the person if they carve out that space for that ritual to just be with themselves without the noise, without the distractions, without any kind of external stimuli, where you're just spending time with yourself in stillness, in silence, or like I said, I like speaking out loud because it helps me to get out of that like incoherent brain wave state where I can, if I'm speaking out loud, I have to activate my, I forget what the brainwave state, but the beta, I think it is, like where you have to be logical, rational if you're going to speak, right? So that for me really helps because I do have ADD, ADHD, like overactive neurodivergent brain. So it's like 15,000 tabs open. So when I speak, it just brings me into, like we're here, we're now, let's, what's going on? What do we want? Right? Like it just kind of brings in that more structure and like that masculine logic energy. So I would just suggest to just spend time with yourself because when you quiet the mind, you can actually hear your higher mind. You can actually hear your intuition that is always there, always available, but there's just too much interference. There's literally noise in your head that is frequencies, like incoherent frequencies that are blocking the way for you to be able to receive your intuition, which is there at all times, all the time.
Yeah.
So that would be the foolproof way to reconnect with your own truth and be able to receive your next best step because it's always there.
Yeah. I couldn't
If
agree
you,
more. Yeah. I think being alone is that key part to
Mhm.
minimizing distractions, but listening. And in the beginning, it can feel really uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to spending time alone. I know it's so easy to want to call someone or want to do something and distract ourselves, but just that space, it for me is a daily practice. And that has been something I've even had to adjust to. Now, obviously, having a 7-month-old, how do I get my daily time for me? Because I know I need it to be able to show up as in my business, as a partner, as a mom, like, and just feel mentally that I'm sturdy and
yeah,
strong. Yeah.
yeah. And it's the foundation, it's the center because again, your relationship with yourself and how you feel is the springboard. It's where everything else comes from, right? So whatever you're feeling is what's going to come back at you in the from the seemingly external. So I know how difficult it is, and that was my journey of trying to figure out the balance. but we owe it to ourselves, even it's just 5 minutes. And that's actually why I created the journal, because I was like just getting up and going into the day, and it's like, no, like that's not working. And same thing at night, just so tired, I just want to go to bed. But I needed to create an anchor to keep myself in alignment, and that's why I called it Align, because it's really just that. It's like, how do I align my energy? And it's like these bookend practices for me, and of course different things throughout the day as well. But yeah, it's all about focus, right? Because if we are not focused, our energy gets scattered, and then we just lose ourselves in this illusion of this and this and this, and nothing is really getting done. You're just spinning your wheels, but you're not intentional and deliberate with your focus, with your energy. And to me, that is the definition of being a conscious creator: is A, knowing what you want, and B, knowing how to use your energy intentionally, moment to moment. This is not like, in your grand scheme of your life, but literally moment to moment. Am I moving through my moments consciously? Or am I reacting, or am I responding? And I'm intentionally creating what it is that I want. I don't know if people follow Abraham Hicks, what's it called? Teachings, but they talk about like segment intending, right? So our days, if you break it down, are different parts, right? So you have your morning routine, then you have whatever it is you do, and you kind of have these different parts of your days. So that's what I trained myself to do, is as I was moving through those different parts of the day, training myself to pause and be like, okay, like, and if I'm not perfect, I wasn't doing it all the time, but this is the practice that would help me before I move into the next phase. Okay, what are we doing intentionally? How do I want to feel? What is my intention going into it? And then just again building on that muscle, right?
Yeah. You mentioned ADD.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask this question bluntly, and I don't mean for it to be disrespectful to anybody. Do you believe in ADD? Here's why I'm saying this. Because I feel that it's also a label that people give so easily, when really I feel like a lot of humans are ADD, and it's also a nervous system thing. Like, let's talk about this a little bit, and your experience with that energy and how that feels in you, and if you feel like you relate to that label.
Yeah, no, I don't normally label myself ever. Like the only label I resonate with is I am a just pure awareness and a point of consciousness. That's the truth. But when we speak to each other, we do need to kind of communicate these ideas and concepts. So I totally do not identify as those labels. However, when I see videos or read about it, I do see that that's actually my experience as a human. That I do have this, my mind is, and it could be very well, the root cause of that could very well be, I don't know, I was born that way, or if it's a trauma related stuff that kind of, developed the brain in a certain way. I don't know, and neither do I really care, because I just need to know how to manage it, right? For me personally, I don't need to go back and dig in the past. I did that for too long, I know. Now for me, it's like, okay, whatever it is I'm feeling, how do I learn to manage that and become a master of my state? So yeah, can you ask the question again? It was, do I resonate with the label, or what was it again?
I mean, I think you answered it. It was really just, do you believe in it?
Yeah,
But
it's just my internal experience. It's a very disorganized, incohesive brain. That's what I experience, right? So it's like so much going on. And for me, the main skill we just kind of touched on it a little bit, but if you're going to become a deliberate creator, it is to hone the skill of being focused. And that's an ongoing skill. Like, I'm not where I want to be yet, but that's what will allow me to become the master of this game of life, is when I can fully be like a ninja Jedi, like just I know what I want, and I'm like honed in on that thing, and that's it, right? And actually, I think ADHD actually has that as one of the pros. One of the strengths is that when we get into like our zone, we really can zone out and go into that flow state, something like that. I remember watching a video about it. But yeah, it doesn't matter all these labels. It's about knowing your own experience for me and knowing how to manage that and kind of leverage your weaknesses and then your strengths so that you can, just live your life the way you consciously want to live it,
Yeah. I think that's bang on. I asked you that because I so strongly believe that labels do not have to define us. Our past, our traumas don't have to define us. And you described so well. It's about understanding how you experience the world, your skills, and what you need in that time. So if you're listening to this and this is any label, like being a mom, ADHD, like whatever it is, a wife, really challenging yourself as to what this label means to you and realizing you are not a victim to any label. You get to decide how you show up and what this looks like in your life. And I think you just described that so well, that you use that term in communication, and also because you've gathered a lot of resourceful information to help you be able to show up and focus the way that you want to in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, every single label, unless it says I'm unlimited, if that's your label, cool. But basically, any other label that we give ourselves is a limitation, literally, right? So when you can begin to not just intellectually hear that and kind of in out ear out the other, but begin to really cultivate that awareness of like, what am I making this mean about me or the world or my life or whatever, you will take your power back because you will realize that you were perhaps unconsciously giving your power away to a concept, an illusionary concept, an idea that does not have to mean anything at all unless you choose to believe that it does, because that is how we create our reality, is whatever we choose to believe, whether it's conscious or unconscious, will play out in the screen of our life. Period.
So just a question of interest. So if we're living then in the quantum and we're raising our vibration, our energy, following the joy, following love, what does it look like to have an opinion in that state? And I know Michael Singer talks about opinions in his books as well, but what is your belief on, is it our human opinion? Like, does our higher consciousness have an opinion? What does that look like in a world that is so opinionated?
My sense is that yes, every desire that, okay, let's go even like to the beginning, right? So I feel that the part of us that is connected to source energy, when it decides to come into the human experience, it's coming with two kind of, I don't know, objectives, I guess, intentions, right? One is it's on a journey to evolve, and another is it through this experience, sorry, when it comes to this journey, it wants to have certain experiences as part of its evolution. So when we come in, we experience whatever it is we go through, right? We have our contrasting moments, which serve to clarify our preferences, right? Which is another word for opinion in the way I understand it. So everything that we go through in life is giving us an opportunity to decide what we actually prefer, because all options are here. It's like a buffet. Everything is available. You get to choose what you want based on what you've lived, because when you know what you don't want, you obviously know more clearly what you prefer, right? So that's how I think of it. Every single desire that we've ever had was born out of those contrasting experiences. And the desires of our hearts are actually the desires that the universe has for itself. So they are divine. And it is like our birthright for us to actually fulfill those desires, to realize them into form, because who who gave us those desires, right? They came from somewhere, some source. So, but it is also important to sit with yourself and not analyze, but just more ask yourself why you want the things you want, because at times you might, at the surface, the desire might be, I don't know, I want to get married. But if you go deeper, it's like it was coming from lack. So for me, if the desire spark, if it's coming from some kind of feeling of not enoughness, that's coming from ego. But if the desire, it's like it just expands you because it's joyful, because it would be fun. That's how, to me, I know that it's coming from my soul. And it's actually the experience that the universe, the source part of me, wants to have through me as me, right? So that's how I think of opinions. It's like, yes, I do believe that spirit does have a preference for this specific avatar. When it comes into the body, it does want to have certain experiences so it can grow through those experiences and evolve. That's how I think of it.
Cool. I want to come back to your journal that you talked about as that the bookmarks, the anchor. And one thing I want to note and share, and I know I said this to you before we hit record today, one thing that I have just loved watching on your journey is in our friendship, and even before you created this journal, you're like, I know I'm meant for something more. I don't always know what that is, and I don't know what my next step is. I'm just going to keep following the breadcrumbs. And your ability to keep trusting, keep following the breadcrumbs, sit in that place of unknown has been so beautiful. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what that journey felt like for you, sitting in the unknown and also following those breadcrumbs to now build this beautiful journal? What was that like for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for acknowledging. I appreciate that so much. It means the world to have that confirmation be reflected back in this beautiful interaction. So thank you. I received that. And what was the journey like? It was unbearable for my human, like, because as a recovering control freak, perfectionist, like just everything, it all comes down to safety, right? Like I didn't feel safe growing up, so I needed to have those mental constructs to, have the illusion of safety. So that was the initiation for my ego, right? It's like we don't have control at that time. Now I have so much more control because now I'm in this conscious partnership with the universe. But at the time, it was like the ego was like my way or the universe's way, right? So it was the journey of learning to like allow the intuition to be louder than that voice of the ego that just needed to know to feel safe. And again, that's part of the reparenting of like the more that I showed up as the soul, the presence, pure love to these parts, eventually they learn to kind of feel safe and relax. And it's still an ongoing process. But yeah, so it was very difficult. It was literally the point of growth for me, learning to just know that not only is it possible, it's done. And what is our part in the equation, right? So the way I like to think of it always, and to talk to my ego when it flares up, is our job is to know what we want and why we want it, to get clear on like, that quality of the desire. Our job is not to figure out the how. It's like we're going way out of our league. The how is the universe's job. Let the universe handle the hardest part. We have the easy part of like, well, kind of easy, right? Going through life and figuring out what we prefer, and like filling up our vortex with all these beautiful desires that are waiting for us to be realized by us, right? That for me has been one of the hardest things, is learning to just know that the universe will take care of the how. It is not my job to figure it out whatsoever, because we actually can't. It is physically not designed. It's not possible for the physical mind to have the capability to conceive. The physical mind's job is just to perceive and to receive. It's an antenna. It's like a radio. The higher mind is the one that conceives and then sends the signals down, and we as the brain receiver picks it up, right? So it's like, stay in your lane, like just stay in your lane. You don't have to figure it out. Let the universe handle. The more that I get into alignment and feel good, we all know those moments of synchronicity and like effortless flow. That's actually how it's meant to be all the freaking time. It's meant to be that easy, right? And it gets to be that easy when we can master our state of being, because circumstances literally don't matter. Like time, not a factor. Any kind of past story you have, not a factor. The only factor is your vibration. What are you feeling consistently? And what most importantly is your self-concept, your identity. So that's the part where like this subconscious reprogramming and subconscious identity transformation work is like my jam. I cannot get enough of this because this is the crux and the root of everything, right? Because if we look at any struggle, any suffering, any kind of feeling of stuckness, it's all going to come down to your subconscious reprogramming. Because in this partnership with the universe that I just talked about, right? Like I actually had this download the other day in the shower that is so funny, and I found it so helpful for me as a visual person because it came as a visual of we know we're in a dance with the universe, right? But in this dance, there's actually three partners, and it's a partner dance. So we have the us, that is the conscious part of us, right? The one that has the desires, that wants certain things. We have the universe, which is also us, the higher part of us that is there guiding, take the step, do that. But then we have this other partner, our subconscious mind, who, if it is holding all of this false programming and false beliefs, is out of harmony with truth, right? It's the frequency is low and it's incoherent and it's stepping on toes, and it's creating disharmony in this beautiful partnership that we are trying to co-create. So that to me is like the most important thing. If you want to get your life in alignment and yourself to feel good and to know that you can have absolutely anything you want, provided your subconscious mind is actually on board and believes, it's like upgrading the software, right? Because we were all born into this paradigm of separation, lack, fear, limitation, and that all of that is false. It's false. If you break down any of those things, it's not the truth. The truth is we are limitless, we are powerful, we can have anything we want, everything is available. But if you have beliefs that are contradicting that, you just won't be able to receive it. You won't be able to perceive it because of what you believe is possible, right? Your subconscious. So that's why, to me, this work is the most important work of like looking into your beliefs, examining your beliefs, looking at yourself, what you believe about yourself, your identity, and then transforming that through just conscious awareness. And yeah, it's like that's the work.
Yeah, I want to dissect, because you've mentioned it a few times today, of the importance of knowing what you want. And I want to dive into that a little bit deeper, because I know so many people, I don't want to say this is the right or wrong way, but often when people hear to know what you want, they get so specific. Well, I want this job and I want it to be this way. And I want you to further explain, what do you mean by knowing what you want? Because I know from experience within me, knowing what I want has been the feeling and not being too specific. When I've gotten too specific, I've gotten in my own way of what I think it should look like. So what do you mean by knowing what you want?
For me, it has to do with connecting with the soul, because this is just my personal experience. I feel that my soul has a specific timeline that it has chosen as the highest potential, which is still expanding, right? As I expand consciously, what becomes available is also gets to be expanded. But it's almost like what to the human, what feels like the highest potential is almost like the floor for the soul, right? What to me is like the ceiling for the soul is so how throughout my journey I got to a place where I now 100% know what my soul is here to, the kind of experience that it wants to have is to create a physical conscious community where, with other souls and other humans who want the same thing, we literally create heaven on earth and this beautiful portal of 5D. And in reality, we create all the systems of what that looks like, because it's not just this airy fairy thing. We actually have to communicate with each other and build systems, right? So that's, to me, when I think of that, when I tune into that timeline, it's so exciting, because that's how I know that it's one, it's meant for me, and that it already exists because I can feel it. Like there is an alternate version of me who is already living that. And that's why it feels so palpable. It's like, I've heard someone once say, it's like remembering your future. Like it feels like I've been there, I am there, because I am. There is a part of me that's already there. And my job is to do the vibrational work so that I can actually quantum jump myself in frequency to that version of Leyla, who is already living that. It's her reality. She's actively creating this heaven on earth in physical form with other humans and just having the freaking time of her life. Like it's just so so that's how, to me, that's how I know what I want, is connecting with the soul. And from the soul's perspective, like what experiences do you want to have? That's how I think of like your vision for your life, is like, what would, if you could have absolutely anything as a child, right? Like go into your imagination, because we do have that part of us. That imagination doesn't go anywhere. It's right there. We just have to learn to tap into it, that innocence. If you could have absolutely anything that can be completely like irrational to the logical mind, you can have anything you want. What would you want to have? And just play there, play in imagination. And then something will start to morph, right? Out of those fun things, like something will start to come together. And it's a process. Like, and not only is it a process, but life will also start to, as you ask these questions and you have this intention, life will start to bring you a video, a book, a conversation, whatever, that will kind of bring in those pieces that over time will clarify that vision for you. But it has to start with this energy again of innocence and play, because that's what we are here to do as souls. We never intended it for it to be so treacherous and difficult. We just forgot. We forgot who we are, and we got entangled, and we just forgot that we're dreaming. None of this is real. It's an illusion. And but that's the thing. That is the evolution. That is, as collectively we are waking up to that it's a dream, it's a simulation. We can have anything we want, provided we get our mind right and our vibration and energetics right. But yeah, so for me, it's a soul knowing. It's like connecting with your soul. It's not coming from your head. And it's not like specific things. It's just like opening a portal. It's like a door that you open to this alternate reality that exists, and it's available to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When did the idea or concept of the Align journal drop in?
It was like when we moved to Lisbon, so probably 2021. Yeah, so a couple of years now. And it started with the 5 minute journal. My sister Mimi was like, I was having a really hard time at the time. And she's like, just start doing the 5 minute journal. It will help you a lot. And of course, my human was so resistant, but I did it because I did know that it would help, because I used to do it, but I wasn't consistent. And then as I was writing in it, while the gratitude question was helpful, the other questions just weren't deep enough for me. It's like I needed some other prompts to help me feel. I'm like, if I'm going to spend time writing, I better use it wisely for me, right? So over time, I kind of was like, what kind of questions would I want? And, it just kind of refined it. But yeah, it was with the intention to A, raise my frequency, B, become more intentional, and C, reprogram my mind, because I was so hyper aware of all these old programs and limiting beliefs and identities that did not serve me. And it's that consistent rewiring of the brain that over time I am a living proof that it works. If you do it consistently, you can literally create an entirely new personality, a different brain, a different nervous system if you are consistent, right? Because in our brain, we have, I'm sure you know this, and most people probably do, we have this reticular activating system that acts like a freaking filter, and it will only filter out what it believes is important based on the things that we've lived. And for most of us, it's lots of limitations. So it's going to filter out all of this incredible opportunity that is right there and available, but it's not perceiving it. It doesn't think it's important because there's just way too much information and data for our brain to process. So the way that I designed the questions was to specifically work with your RAS so that through consistently like training it to focus on the things you actually want to experience more of in your life, which is more joy, more feeling good, and again, consciously using mental rehearsal because again, time is not real. There's no past, there's no future. So the evening portion of the question where you're reflecting on your day, there is a question that is, I forgot exactly what it says. Reflect on any interactions or events that didn't go as desired, and in retrospect, how would I revise these moments? So because that question is there, it forces you to like replay whether it was like a conversation with your partner or whatever it is that you did that you just like, I wish I didn't act that way, or I didn't say that, or I wish I did this instead. So you're actively training your brain to rehearse how you would want to respond. And I did it, and I saw that the next time that moment came with my kids, for example, because I rehearsed it in writing, it helped my brain to remember. And I was like, okay, we're pausing, we're taking a breath, right? So it's like whatever I rehearsed, I actually was able to do because I told my brain what to do. It's so powerful, right? So yeah, so that was the intention. That was like it was solving my own problem of like I got this brain that right now is not serving me, and we need to do something about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very, very powerful practice for someone who wants to raise self-awareness, be more mindful, be more intentional, reprogram their brain, and just become a conscious creator.
Yeah, I love that practice. I do that all the time as well. It helps me show up as my highest self. Because if I actually just did a video about this, because I was okay, I won't explain the whole story, but I was in a situation where I was triggered and wasn't able to show up the way I wanted to. And afterwards, literally 30 seconds after, I rehearsed it again and visualized. That's why I think visualization is so important. I visualized, okay, how would I have done that differently? If it happens again, how do I want to show up? And it programs your brain to know this is how I want to show up. This is how I want my life to look like. And it's a really, really powerful tool. I ordered my journal already. I can't wait to get it. I ordered it like launch day. So it's in the mail on its way to me, and I can't wait to use it. And I know it will help so many people just tune into that and break away from their limiting beliefs, their subconscious beliefs, all that stuff that isn't serving us any longer.
Yes, exactly. The question is like, if you want to know if it's like serving you, it's like, is it creating more harm or is it actually getting you closer to what you want, right? Like harming or serving? You can ask yourself that at any moment.
Yeah.
And that to me is how you take your power back from your mind, the default settings of our mind.
That's beautiful. Okay, I have two more questions. What is something that you wish the younger version of you knew? That single version before she went on her soul journey. What would you tell her today?
I would tell her to fall in love with herself. Oh my gosh, she was so she needed to love herself more than anything. She needed to be more compassionate with herself and just fall in love with every part of herself and see her own perfection and her own beauty. Because I would have avoided a lot of pain and suffering if I acted from that place of self-love. But that was what I needed to learn, the hard way, as they say, because I do have a very stubborn mind that when it wants something, it's just like, yeah, I'm going there, and it just, yeah, like a dog on a bone. But
Yeah.
just
That's beautiful.
self-love.
Yeah.
Just love yourself, love yourself, love yourself, because the more that the more that I get into that state of love, the more that I am able to experience that, reflected back to me externally. So that is the only thing that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I actually don't even think you know this. The title of this podcast is Heart and Mind.
Ooh, I love it.
What do you think? How would you describe the relationship between your heart and mind? You've talked about the heart and mind a couple of times because you've mentioned how when you think there's too much energy up here, you bring it into your heart. But when I say heart and mind, what does that relationship look like for you?
Yeah, to me, the mind is a tool. That's what the mind is, right? Because the universe is mental, life is mental. It's the thoughts that turn to things. So the problem with my journey was that the mind was out of control. The mind had all of this programming, all of this limitation that was running the show, and it was creating havoc, not even close to anything I wanted to experience. So my journey was learning to become partners with this part of yourself that is literally a tool. It's a programmable tool that you have the ability to program into anything you wanted to believe, essentially, and it will work to your advantage. It is the greatest gift the universe has given us, free will and self-awareness, to make choices and to decide what you prefer. And then over time, again, I am a living proof example that you can create an entirely new person by sculpting yourself into whatever it is you want to become, because all there is one, and all these qualities already are within us. So whatever it is that you feel like your higher self already embodies, they're just dormant, inactivated parts of they're inside of you. And again, there's another question here of like, how do I choose to feel, and who do I choose to embody, right? Because again, it's just over time practicing embodying certain qualities, certain characteristics of this future self. But it's not a future self, it's just an alternate version of you that is available to you. You just have to practice embodying those states. So to me, the mind is a partner and a tool in this, game of being the director and the script writer and the avatar, and just directing the mind to where you want to go, the experiences you want to have, and it will follow. At first, it might put up a fight because I had a lot of resistance, but with love and compassion and understanding and empathy, again, it's a relationship. You're developing a beautiful, harmonious relationship with every part of you, and your mind is that, so.
I love that description because it doesn't have to be a fight. And I know for me too, in the beginning, it was this fight and this resentment towards the brain. But when we can meet that balance and that partnership and that beautiful dance between the heart and mind, they can both be used. And they can both be in their zone of genius as we move into. It's the same between the balance between masculine and feminine, right? So yeah. If
Yeah, we need
people
both.
exactly.
That's why we have two hemispheres. We have the left and the right for a reason. But
Yeah,
let's keep them where they belong, right? Each one has its place. So yeah.
that's perfect. What is, if somebody wants to get the Align Journal, follow more of you and your journey, where can they find you and grab their own journal?
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Instagram is where I feel the most aligned to be active on. And the website you can share in the show notes. It's lucapages.com. They can check it out, see if it resonates. But yeah, Instagram is where I'm most active on social media.
Why is it called LUCA?
So LUCA stands for love, unity, consciousness, and alignment. And the word LUCA actually came to me. It was living LUCA at the time when I was in LA. This was over a decade ago, as this mission of the sole mission of, guiding humanity to 5D. But then it evolved as I understood that it's about like embodiment. So that's where Being LUCA is the umbrella of eventually the conscious community and the global wellness brand and all these things. But there are different branches of Being LUCA. So LUCA Pages is the branch of stationary, mindful, products like that help you to realign and all of that. So yeah, the LUCA stands for, and not only, I didn't know at the time, but LUCA actually is light, right? So basically, how perfect the universe is, I had no idea until way later that being, right, embodying light. So Being LUCA is being light, and LUCA Pages, it's like light. These pages are filled with light for you to pour your own light into and create more of that light in the world.
So awesome. Yeah, I love being part of your LUCA community. I'm so excited to see how it evolves. What is one thing you want to leave the listener with today that you want them to take away from this conversation?
I want them to know that all the answers that they are looking for are already inside of them, and they just need to reconnect with that beautiful, wise part of themselves that is waiting for them with open arms. It just wants them to show up and be there to receive, because there's nothing that we need that is external. However, the external is also part of it's still you, right? So, but to me, the connection starts within first, and then the external, just you start having fun through synchronicity. But know that whatever it is you're looking for is already inside you, and you just need to create the space to connect and hear what's already there.
Yeah, awesome. That's all for today. Until next time, trust yourself, shine your light, and stay true to your heart and mind. Love you.